How you doing? Welcome back to the channel. My computer's frozen up a little bit, as you can see. Thought it was going to start. All right, good. This is Mongols Season 1 full, from Genghis to Kublai. Genghis Khan to Kublai Khan. Kublai Khan, that's how you say his right name, right? That's how you say his right name, right? Did I say that? I said that. Yeah, I did. Okay. So we're going to move past that. We're going to break this down into 4 videos, be about 17 minutes each. Oh, I see it was 8 seconds. So I didn't. Kind of started on me a little bit ago. But anyways, let's get into the video.
Hard places often breed hard people, and Mongolia is one of the most inhospitable lands in the world. This is the story of the people who came out of the steppes and built the biggest empire in history. This is the story of Temujin and how he became Genghis Khan. The history of the eastern part of the Asian steppe is shrouded in mystery, and so the early history of the Mongols is still debated. At the beginning of the 10th century, the Proto-Mongolic Khitan people formed an empire called the Great Liao. The Khitans fought many wars in Korea, China and Central Asia, but by 1125 were defeated by the Chinese Jin dynasty and moved to establish a new Khitan state called Western Liao. To the north, in modern-day Mongolia, a number of nomadic tribes united in a tribal confederation called Kamag Mongol, which can be translated as Whole Mongol. One of the clans within the confederacy was the Borjigin, and its representatives were elected the Khans of the Union multiple times in the 12th century. Kamag Mongol was in a long-term rivalry with the Tatar Confederacy, which also nomadized in the region. This struggle weakened the Mongols, and their confederacy almost ceased to exist in the second half of the 12th century. The chief of the Borjigin clan at the time, Yasuge, was trying to reunite the tribes once again. In 1171, he arranged a marriage between his 9...
I'm sorry, stupid question. 1171, is this AD or BC? And I literally was sitting here waiting for an answer as though something would pop up. I should be just kicked in the genitals. So I don't know which one it was. He was a long time ago. I'm going to say AD though. I want to say AD because I want to say there was a Khan that attacked the early Muslim expanse. It was near the I don't want to say the end of the Muslim expansion, but it was the end of the videos that I was covering because they stopped. So I'm gonna say, yeah, this was only 800 years ago. Wait a minute, 11? Well, that's not when Genghis Khan came around. Okay, sorry.
Year-old son Temujin and the daughter of the chief of a nearby clan, Borta. Some sources claim that Yasuge was poisoned by the Tatars during the wedding. Temujin attempted to assume the role of chieftain, but he was rejected and exiled with his family. For the next 6 years, Temujin lived in poverty and was even enslaved on occasion. Eventually, Temujin started forming his tribe with the help of his blood brother Jamuka and the leader of the Kirat tribe, Togrul Khan. Temujin and Jamuka raided other tribes together, but eventually they had a falling out. Jamuka supported the traditional Mongolian aristocracy, while Temujin gave positions of power to capable people outside his tribe.
And I know this before, but I'm asking again because I'm trying to remember it. Is it Temujin was his name, and Genghis Khan, or Genghis Khan, however you say his name, that was like, what am I trying to say? I want to say it was given to him like it's like a military leader name kind of thing, like a Caesar. You know, his name was Julius, blah, 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 and everyone called him Julius Caesar, but there were a lot of Caesars. Is that, well, that could be Khan, though, because Kublai Khan, Genghis Khan. I'm trying to work this out on the fly, so I apologize if I'm annoying you.
Threatened by Temujin's rise in popularity, Jamuka attacked him in 1187 with an army of 30,000 men. Temujin's 20,000 men were decisively beaten at the Battle of Dalan Belzut. Not much is known about Temujin's life in the next 10 years, but in 1197 we see him commanding a united force of the Mongols, the Kairites, in the war against the Tatars initiated by the Jin dynasty. Temujin would avenge his father in this conflict. The leaders of the Tatar tribes were executed, while the non-aristocrats were invited to join his ranks. He delegated authority based on skill and loyalty, rather than tribal affiliation or blood. As an incentive, Temujin promised civilians and soldiers a portion of the war spoils. His new rules laid the foundations of a code of law which would eventually be developed and applied to his empire. His father's death influenced Temujin, and one of the laws was that hospitality was sacred. Guests and envoys should not be harmed. Temujin revolutionized the steppe world. Each victory brought more warriors to his side, and he reformed the Mongols into an army. The decimal system was implemented, and the army was divided into tens, hundreds, thousands, and 10,000s. Transfers between the units were forbidden, and if one man deserted, the other 9 in his unit were put to death. Commanders were chosen by their men, except for the commanders of the 10,000s, so-called tumans, who were hand-picked by the Khan himself. This chain of command allowed flexibility, discipline, and loyalty, and was vital to performing sophisticated maneuvers. Every able-bodied man had to be a part of this structure. In 1201, a number of opposing clans called a council, Kurultai in the Mongolian language, and declared Jamuka the Khan. This sparked a 5-year war between him and Temujin, and the latter managed to defeat his former blood brother at the Battle of the 13 Sides. That same year, Temujin assembled another council of the Mongol chiefs, who elected him as their leader, giving him the title of Genghis Khan, the leader of all. For the first time, the warring tribes united as one nomadic nation, under one banner and one authority. In 1209, the Mongols began their first invasion against the powerful Western Shah state to the southwest. The details of this conflict are not clear, but it seems that Genghis Khan was successful in open battles, but had difficulties taking the well-fortified cities. The Mongols learned the importance of siege warfare in this campaign. The surrounded cities slowly succumbed to starvation and diseases, and the Xiao emperor had to submit to Genghis Khan and become his vassal. Up until this point, the Jin dynasty underestimated the Mongols as a nuisance on their northern border, and even refused a call to aid by the Liao, but by 1211 they were on high alert. They even demanded Mongol submission, which led to war. In March 1211, Genghis Khan summoned all Mongol chieftains and prepared to wage war against China. The Jin had a massive population and mobilized around 800,000 infantry, most of which were untrained peasants with low morale, and 150,000 highly trained heavy cavalry. This vast army, however, was spread across the Great Wall and garrisoned separate fortresses. Meanwhile, the Mongols had a 90,000-strong cavalry army, which had 3 main components: light cavalry scouts, horse archers armed with composite bows, and heavy cavalry armed with lances and curved swords. All of these men were highly trained and loyal. After they bypassed the hopelessly ineffective Great Wall, the Mongols split into 2 armies. The main army was led by the Great Khan himself and was 60,000 strong, while the other 30,000 were taken by his son Ogedei to attack the city of Datong. Genghis Khan headed for the strategic Juyong Pass protecting Beijing, but along the way he was stopped at the pass of Yehuling, where the bulk of the Jin army awaited him. For months the Mongols waited for the Jin to make a move, but they held their ground. While waiting, Genghis sent his trusted generals Jebe and Subutai to lead a small force which attacked the western front from the rear in the Battle of Wuxia Fortress. The Jin army and their commander were annihilated. Once the secondary army quickly grouped up with the main force, which was still waiting in Yehuling, the Mongols attacked the defenders in the mountainous terrain and pushed the Jin forces back.
What was the point of attacking that unit down there? Was that a backup unit? So he just thought, we're going to annihilate their backup, they won't know, and then we're going to, because they're going to be China's going to be dropping back, waiting for reinforcements, maybe to hit them from the side, so they already know, well, we've eliminated them. Was that the reason for that? Anyone know? By the way, quick question. Between Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, and I'm not even going to throw in Khalid on this one, or Khalid. If you had to pick one, and I know that some of the Muslim followers are going to pick one, and people from Italy are going to pick someone else, But if you had one leader in one battle, who would you pick, and who do you think? Do you think Khan could have beat Alexander the Great? Do you think Caesar could have beat Khalid, Ibn Walid? Like, how do you think? It's just a rhetorical question. I'm just curious. Who do you think would win in the battles? Because they were all. None of them were the type of people that kind of. They were all attacking people. They pushed. So I'm just curious. I know who I'd go for. But I'm biased on this one. But I got to go with my boy Khalid, whatever you want to call him. That's who I'm going for. I'm sticking with it.
Genghis sent men over the peaks surrounding the pass, which the Jin generals thought was impassable, and attacked the much larger.
That's why he sent them down and attacked there, because he then could use that access path. That's what I'm going to say.
Larger army from both sides. Jebe, one of the best Mongol generals, used the trademark Mongol tactic of a feigned retreat. After a short skirmish, the Mongols pretended to flee, leaving loot as they fled. The Jin defenders took the bait and left their fortifications, trying to chase them down. Little did they know they were falling into a deadly trap, where thousands of them were attacked from all sides by Mongol archers. With the gates of China now open, Genghis Khan began raiding the countryside before he withdrew for the winter. The following year, the Mongols struck again, only this time they besieged Datong, where Genghis was wounded by an arrow. The city held out against the invaders, who once again retreated for the winter, this time with even more knowledge about their enemy and siege warfare. In 1213, when the Mongols invaded again, their mobility prevented the Jin from organizing a successful resistance as their countryside was raided. The Mongols began besieging multiple fortresses and cities, and waited for the enemy to attempt to break the siege, only to be ambushed and defeated. The Mongols were fighting guerrilla warfare within a foreign land. The cities that surrendered had most of their inhabitants murdered or enslaved. However, engineers, artisans, merchants, doctors, teachers, priests and administrators were spared and asked to join the Mongol horde. Many others were taken and used as meat shields for the following sieges, marching in the vanguard to block arrows or discourage the archers from firing. After securing all Jin land north of the Yellow River, Genghis moved against the capital of Beijing and besieged it. The Mongols tried to starve the city out, but after a few months an epidemic spread through their camp and they had to negotiate with the Jin Emperor Xuanzong. He agreed to peace in exchange for a tribute of loot, men, horses and his daughter, along with subjugation to the Mongol Khan. Thus, the Mongols left China and returned to Mongolia with their treasure. But just outside the Great Wall, a messenger galloped to Genghis Khan. The emperor had moved his court to Kaifeng to the south. This enraged the Great Khan, as it signaled that the Jin planned to retaliate. The Mongols quickly returned to Beijing and besieged the city with the help of thousands of Chinese engineers. The city was surrounded, breached and razed. For weeks, thousands of carts hauled loot back to Mongolia. The fires in the city burned for over a month, while its people were massacred. What was once considered a nuisance had brought a 20 million strong nation to its knees, and now the Mongol devastation was heading west. The Naimans were one of the tribes defeated by Genghis Khan in 1205. After the defeat, the prince of the tribe, Kuchlug, fled to the west. In 1208 he was defeated by Genghis yet again and found refuge in the nearby Western Liao Empire.
Wait a minute, okay. I'm a little lost going back to the last episode. All the Chinese soldiers went south, and the writer said that they were going to retaliate. Where were they going to retaliate to? Because Mongols are north. They're right there. And they all went that way. I burned myself. I did. I burned it myself. Ow. So, where were they going? Were they going south to get more troops? And then they were going to attack? I'm kind of lost on that one. But it enraged him enough that he went back and didn't do much. By the way, I don't know what it was, but the term meat shield for the people who had to stand in front to take the arrows, a meat shield. That just really made me uncomfortable.
He was welcomed and even married the daughter of the emperor Zhiligu. 2 years later, Kuchlug rebelled against his father-in-law and took control of the empire. In 1216, Kuchlug attacked the city of Amalik, which was under Mongol protection. Genghis Khan sent his best general, Jebe, who defeated Kuchlug in the Battle of Balasaghun, and in 2 years, the entire empire was under Mongol rule. Now they were bordering the great Khwarezmian Empire that was ruled by a Persianized Turkic dynasty. Genghis Khan sent a caravan with precious gifts to Shah Muhammad II, hoping to establish trade. However, the governor of the Khwarezmian city of Otrā, Inalchuk, had the members of the caravan arrested, claiming they were spies. Genghis Khan then sent 3 ambassadors to the Shah himself to demand the merchants be set free. Muhammad refused. The merchants, along with one of the ambassadors, were executed. The rules of hospitality, which Genghis Khan considered sacred, were broken, and he started planning his retribution. He gathered information from the Silk Road about his enemies, assembled siege engineers from China, and created a plan involving separating his army into 3 columns. The numbers for both sides are highly disputed, but most scholars agree that at the start of the campaign, the Mongols outnumbered the Khwarezmian forces with 100,000 against 60,000. In the winter of 1219, Genghis Khan sent his oldest son Jochi and Jebe to cross the Tian Shan mountains to ravage the fertile Ferghana Valley with around 20,000 men. It was risky, but paid off, as they slipped through the defensive lines and confused the enemy, who thought this was the main force. Meanwhile, another army under his second and third sons, Chagatai and Ogedei, passed through the Zungarian Gate with haste and besieged Otrar, which had a garrison of 20,000. After 5 months, a deserter opened the gates and allowed the Mongols into the city. Otrar became the first of many settlements to have its entire population slain or enslaved before it was razed to the ground. Inalchuk was captured and reportedly had molten silver poured into his eyes and ears. Muhammad II was preparing a strong defense around his capital, Samarkand, but Genghis tricked him by traversing 300 miles across the Kizilkum Desert, which was considered impassable, hopping from oasis to oasis. The Mongols found themselves at the gates of Bukhara. The city's defences were weak, so the desperate defenders tried to sally out and meet the Mongols in open battle, where they were massacred en masse. Next came the Khwarezmian capital of Samarkand. The Mongols closed in during March of 1220. The Mongols assaulted the city and its 40,000-strong garrison, using prisoners as meat shields. On the third day, the garrison launched a counterattack. Feigning retreat, Genghis drew approximately half of the garrison, including war elephants, outside of the fortifications of Samarkand and slaughtered them in the open fields. Shah Muhammad II attempted to relieve the city twice, but was driven back. On the fifth day, all but a handful of soldiers surrendered. The city's inhabitants, numbering around 100,000, were slaughtered. The Shah and his son managed to escape to the west, so Genghis Khan ordered his generals Subutai and Jebe to hunt them down with a force of around 20,000. The legendary expedition of this army deserves its own episode and will be covered soon. After finishing the destruction of Samarkand, Genghis Khan moved against the wealthy city of Urgench from the south, while his son Jochi attacked it from the north. Despite the stout defense, the city was taken, but that created a new complication for the Mongols. Jochi was given the right to loot the city for himself, but preferred to negotiate with the locals to avoid property damage, while his brothers, who disliked him, argued against this unusual behavior. Genghis removed his oldest son from command and appointed his third son Ogedei in his stead, who in turn ordered the city to be destroyed. This decision would have a significant impact on the Mongol Empire in the following decades, as it forever alienated Jochi from the rest of the family. While Urgench was being destroyed, Tului, Temujin's youngest son, took 50,000 men into the region of Khorasan. He occupied and razed the cities of Balkh, Merv, and Nishapur in rapid succession. Herat surrendered and was spared, as was any other city that surrendered without a fight. The Mongols couldn't control such a vast population, so they used practical brutality as their primary method to subjugate a nation. The massacres were committed without religious or cultural reasons, and they wanted everyone to know it, as a method to prevent resistance. Until now, the Mongols never allowed their enemy to raise an army, using psychological warfare and picking off smaller parties. Also, they were never at one spot all at once. While a city was besieged, another army was patrolling and pillaging the countryside. The son of Muhammad, Jalal al-Din, managed to recruit an army of Turkic and Afghan warriors numbering 60,000, which was not expected by the Mongols. As soon as news of this reached Genghis Khan, he sent an army of 30,000 men, led by a Tartar nobleman, Kutaku. Jalal al-Din moved to Purwan, 50 miles north of Kabul, Afghanistan, where he awaited the inevitable battle. Kutaku decided not to wait for the orders of their Khan and engaged the enemy. At Parwan, the two sides met in a narrow valley, unsuitable for cavalry maneuvers. Jalal al-Din took the initiative, ordering his right wing of Turks to dismount and engage in a skirmish, pouring arrows onto the Mongols. His archers were winning the skirmish, as the dismounted archers were more accurate and deadly than the mounted ones. Both sides held their ground until the following morning, when the Afghan warriors noticed the Mongol army was being reinforced. This alarmed the commanders, but Jalal al-Din calmed his officers and, instead of retreating, ordered his entire line to dismount and engage. In reality, the Mongols had put straw men on the usual 3 to 4 spare horses they had with them as a bluff. Seeing the entire line dismounted, Kutaku ordered his horsemen to attack the Afghan left wing with a barrage of arrows, but they were repelled by the unwavering archers. Then the Mongols charged along the entire front. Hard pressed by the rough, narrow terrain, which rendered the usual tricks of feigned retreat and encirclement impossible, the famous Mongol discipline disintegrated for the very first time against a foreign foe, as the riders faced the arrows of the numerically superior force head-on. At this point, the Mongols began to retreat, and Jalal al-Din saw his chance. He ordered his men to remount and counterattack. Half of the Mongol army was obliterated, while the other half escaped. This defeat broke the illusion of Mongol invincibility, and the cities who had peacefully surrendered rose up in arms, which forced Genghis and his son Tuluy to spend extra months subduing the revolts. But the army of the Khwarezmian prince started to fall into discord immediately after the victory. Left with only 20,000 men, Jalal al-Din headed for the Indus River to find refuge in India. The Great Khan immediately made his way to Parwan. After a 2-day race across Punjab, Genghis Khan caught up to Jalal al-Din at the Indus River, just before the prince was able to cross. The Mongols rested for the rest of the day, and at dawn charged the enemy, pressed up against the river while their flank was covered by the mountain. The initial charge was repelled, and Jalal al-Din ordered a counterattack, which nearly broke the Mongol army. Genghis then sent his reserve of 10,000 around the mountain to flank Jalal al-Din's army. With his forces attacked from 2 directions and collapsing into chaos, Jalal al-Din decided to escape. Following the victory, Genghis sent one of his commanders along with 20,000 men to chase down the prince, but the prince was nowhere to be found. Regardless, most of the Khwarezmian territory was annexed, and its Shah died on an island in the Caspian Sea. As for its people, it is said that the Mongols reduced the population of this prosperous region to 200,000 from the initial 2 million. The Mongol invasion of Asia was just starting.
I'm going to go ahead and end it there. I wanted to do 17. I was going to stop it there, but I kind of got into it. So maybe the next one will be 20 minutes. I don't know. I might stop it there. Be a little bit shorter so I get back on track. I don't know. We'll see how I feel. All right. So this is part 1 of either 3 or 4. We'll see. There's a thanks button on the channel. You can donate. You don't have to. There is a subscribe button. You can click on that. Click the bell if you do. There's notifications and things and whatnot. And then click the thumbs up button. That helps. For everything else, you're going to go have to ask someone else. So have a good day. Have a good night.